What's going on, everybody? I'm glad to be back and making yet another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. I'm sorry I've taken quite a bit of time to make a few. I've been trying to split my content up between Yu-Gi-Oh! And Lord of the Rings Online. It's a passion of mine, and I do want to make videos on that because I do enjoy making content for Lord of the Rings, but I also do enjoy making content for Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm going to be trying to do some streaming more. I'm going to be streaming on Twitch, hopefully doing some Dueling Book, and I'll be posting some of the deck profiles I do on Dueling Book and stream highlights and whatnot, so you guys can have more regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, but also be doing the same with Lord of the Rings Online, but I may be making more long-form videos for Lord of the Rings Online. It's kind of difficult doing it for Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, I can do these deck profiles, but a lot of the times people just skip through them and just look at the cards, and I don't blame them. I do that sometimes as well, but that's kind of one of the things that has been taking up my time, trying to do Lord of the Rings Online content, but also my Masters is just taking a lot right now. I'm getting prepped for my ABR, which is the American Board of Radiologists exam. I'm taking the Part 1 in January, and that takes a lot of studying. I'm also doing my master's thesis at the same time, and I'm also doing all my classwork, so I'm just basically going, getting ready for my work in the future, and yes, this is a passion of mine, but sometimes I have to put my priorities straight and be able to focus on schooling, but I still do want to make content for you guys. I'm just sorry that I'm on pretty long hiatuses. It feels bad when I do that because I feel like you guys kind of want to watch these videos, and it makes me happy when you guys do, but today I'm going to bring you a spooky deck profile for Halloween, and that deck is Vendreads. Vendreads recently got their story mode in Master Duels. It still skips a little bit of the story from what I've seen. Vendreads actually do take place in the same city that the hero archetype takes place, which is in the Skyscraper City. It's after there's been a zombie virus that has been released, and the Vendread, like Vendread Slayer, has technically is a hero, but it's more like Spawn than anything else. It takes a lot of inspiration from Spawn. The archetype is the one zombie ritual archetype in the game, and it has some pretty powerful ritual spells that give it quite some crazy combo potential, especially being able to ritual summon using monsters from the deck, which many decks are not able to do. You can also make absolute usage of pre-preparation of rites, since the Vendread Origin, or the Vendread Origin, lists Vendread Slayer on it, so you can actually search both. But also we got archetypal support in Battle of Chaos recently, which gave us Vendread or Vendread Scavenger, and then we also got Vendread Origin. Their names are just so confusing. I'll just try to put some stuff on the screen if I can, but there's just so many Vendreads, they just go all over the place. But the new support really did help. We also got Scar of the Vendread. Scar is insane. It gives us that extra spell and trap search that the deck really needed. If you have all your combo pieces, then what you can do with your Scar is you can either search a Vendread Knights to be able to have an OTK, being able to attack multiple times by banishing Vendreads. It doesn't come up that often, but it also gives you a search of like a Vendread monster, so if you haven't used your normal summon, you can actually normal summon a Revenants and then be able to get the monster banish online. And you also are able to search a Vendread Origin. That is the trap. Sorry, the naming conventions are just crazy. Vendread Origin allows you to tribute one of their monsters and being able to summon a token to your side of the field at the same level as that monster. Unfortunately, it does trigger tier effects because you're sending them to the graveyard by a card effect, but the token can also then be used on your next turn to be able to link summon your Vendread Link, or you could use it for ritual summoning, which is pretty cool. I think this is technically the best zombie archetype out there right now. Meikashis are not that great. I mean, the new support is coming out, and it does have a good trap that is able to blank a turn, but just pure zombies is kind of garbage right now. I know I've talked with some people in my comment section about trying to do a zombie deck profile, but I'm sorry, it's just really bad. The only way you can play it is with either punks, or you have to use like a branded engine, but the branded engine just kind of shuts down your turn because you're not able to do your link. You can't go into Sucker. You may be able to get your Ballardrock to the graveyard by using Baylor and your Fallen of Albaz to be able to make a Lubellion, but at that point, you're kind of at a disadvantage because you have to rely on your normal summon of Unizombie, which still falls apart because if they impermit or they effect Veiler it or even Ghost Mourner or something like that, the deck just dies to any of the negations or interruptions. Dangers do help it though, but it's still not enough, and I think zombies are in a really bad spot right now, especially with the banning of Hulk. That's why I think this deck, the Vendreads, are so much more powerful, because you can still play through certain amount of interruptions depending on the Vendread ritual spells that you have, and if you have like a Vendread Knights, or if you even have like your normal summons and whatnot. You often are going to be using your Vendreads to be able to send them off the field. You're going to link them off, you're going to tribute them for other Vendreads, and that will get you access to more ritual spells and more ritual monsters, and the deck just pops off. Your turn 1 end board usually wants to be a Vendread. You can usually have the Vendread Executioner. You can have the Vendread Battlelord with the banish of a monster and a spell, and you'll usually end with the link. Sometimes you may be able to end with more, depending if you still have a Unizombie on the field and being able to link to synchro off into a Baronne de Fleur, which gives you 3 interruptions, which is quite good. Not to mention you may have the Trap, which gives you 4 interruptions with a Tribute. Well, I know this is long-winded and you guys may have skipped this and whatnot, but I hope you guys enjoy the deck profile, and let's get right into it. So the first few cards we're going to be playing, of course, we're going to be playing 3 Vendread Slayer. It's quite necessary in the deck. What it does is, the battle effect doesn't matter, but if this card battles an opponent during damage calc, you can banish 1 zombie monster from your graveyard, then it gains a 300 attack. That doesn't matter. The second effect is what really matters. If this ritual summon card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand, and if you do, send 1 Vendread monster from your deck to the graveyard. That is insane. All the Vendreads do have the same effect, where they can either add something and then dump, except for Executioner. He doesn't have that, and neither does Scavenger. But he is the core of our deck. Being level 6 is quite nice because you can get some pretty cool tributes off. We have some nice tribute fodder in the deck to be able to pair with him, and I will show you some of the cool tech choices later on. So we're playing 3 Slayer. We're going to be playing 2 Battlelords. Some people run 1. I think 2 is a good choice because if you get 1 banished, at least you have the second. What it can do is its first effect is you can banish a Vendread card from your graveyard and declare 1 card, then declare 1 type of card. And then for the rest of the turn, like, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects of that type. It's pretty good. You can blank out hand traps with Battlelord if you summon him first, which is pretty nice. It prevents you from getting nibbed, which is pretty cool, as well as getting impermed if you want to declare like a trap or something like that. We're also running 1 Scavenger, and then we're running 1 Executor. Scavenger is a new addition that came out in Battles of Chaos, or no, it was Power of the Elements that it came out. In Power of the Elements, what he does is you can tribute 1 other zombie monster, and this card gains attack equal to the tributed monster's original attack. It's pretty good for being able to get over monsters that are like massive, because the deck does have a problem with that. They can't really get over anything that's probably bigger than 3,500, so Scavenger gives you the option. If you tribute like an Executor, it will boost him to 28 or to 58. And then also what he can do is if you control a Vendread Slayer and this card's in your graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. So he has to be first properly ritual summoned, which is the only issue, but all your cards usually count as like Vendread Slayer. Executor does, Slayer does, and the Link does. So you can bring them back out, and then if you really want to, you can do like a rank 8 play, but I'm not running any rank 8s in my deck. That's our ritual monster lineup. We're going to go off into the main deck monsters. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be running 3 Unizombie. This is pretty evident. We're going to be running 3 Shiranui Solitaire as well. Gives us access to Unizombie. Even if this gets interrupted, we're fine because of the way that this deck functions. We don't necessarily need the normal summon to be able to do anything. As long as we have the right ritual spells, we're able to combo off and do some crazy combos. However, I do love Unizombie in this deck because we're also running 1 Mizuki. What this means is that if we have Unizombie and we do it as a normal to like later on, or if we even have a Shiranui Solitaire, what we can do is we can normal that, tribute summon Unizombie. Then what we can do is we can activate Unizombie and then send Mizuki from the deck to the graveyard. Seeing as we're in a grind game, what you can then do is you can banish the Mizuki and summon a properly special summoned Vendread Slayer by banishing this. And then you can end off by being able to synchro summon either into a Red-Eye Zombie Dragon Lord using the Unizombie that's now a level 4 and the Slayer, or you can make a Baronne de Fleur, which oftentimes is more than enough in a later game state because that gives you a pop and negate. And then on your follow-up turn, you can put the Baronne back to be able to summon out like a Slayer and Execute that's properly special summoned. Really cool combo. I love the fact that you can do it. I was debating on actually running 2 Mizukis and then cutting Solitaire down to 2. It's a good possibility. I would say that that requires more testing, The only thing is, Mizuki's kind of a brick if you draw it. Yes, you can use it for tribute fodder, but I prefer not to. Besides these cards, we're also running a little bit more generic good zombie stuff. We're running one Glow Bloom. Glow Bloom can be sent off of Unizombie as well, and then Glow Bloom can add any of your Vendread rituals. But the funny tech that I love in this deck is actually running 2 Al-Ghul Mizera. Al-Ghul is insane in this deck. I think it's probably one of the best cards. What it does is it says, if a zombie monster you control be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from your hand or graveyard instead. So it gives you banishing, it gives you like destruction protection. So if they try lightning storming your board, or they try doing anything with that, like a Raigeki, you can just banish him and he protects. And then what it says is, if he's banished from your hand or your graveyard, you can special summon this card in defense position. Then you can reduce its level by 1. This is insane, because what that means is if you open Al-Ghul Mizera, like a Slayer plus the ritual to ritual summon it, what you can do is basically the Vendread Origin can banish zombie monsters to ritual summon instead. So if you actually banish a Mizera to summon like an Executor, the Mizera comes back and gives you another ritual summon or another link material. It's absolutely insane. I was actually debating on 3 of the Mizera as well, but the deck is pretty tight as it is, and I feel like running 3 would put you into brick mode, so I think the technical 3, which is the 1 Glow Bloom and the 2 Mizera, is more than enough in this deck. Not to mention you can also dump it with Unizombie as well. That is all of our generic zombie good stuff. I was talking with some people, as I said in the comments section before. They wanted me to make a Zombie World deck profile. I tried putting Zombie World in this deck. It doesn't function, and Zombie World in and of itself right now is not a good card. Yes, it does stop the flu, but it doesn't stop the tier, and it doesn't really stop Sprite that well. So I think that this is definitely, like, if you want to play like a zombie package, and say like maybe you might want to throw in 1 like Necro World and 1 Baylor, you might be able to do that, but then you need room for your Zombie World. So as I said, Zombie World, the zombie deck is dead. Vendread is the next best zombie deck, followed probably by vampires. But that's our main zombie monsters, the generic stuff. Then we're running our Vendread suite. We're running 2 Vendread Revenants. What it does is if this card is in your possession, it's destroyed by an opponent's card effect or battle, and sent to your graveyard, you can special summon it and then banish it instead. That never really comes up unless you're in a really bad situation. The main thing is if you ritual summon while this is on the field, it gives the monster that you ritual summoned with, it gives it basically a quick effect once per turn. Target a special summon monster your opponent controls and banish it. I'm running 2 because I like to be able to have it in the grind game, and also it's another send target. It's not a bad send target, because one of the issues is later on, you may run out of your send targets for the Vendread, because you need to send one in order to add the other, because you have to add it. Well, you can add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand using Slayer, and then it says, and if you do, send 1 Vendread monster from your deck to the graveyard. So I'm quite sure that you have to do part A to do part B, since it's and if you do. Then we're also running 1 Hound Horde, and we're running 1 Striges. Striges effect doesn't matter. It just says if you ritual summon using this, after damage calc, you can, in a monster battle an opponent's monster, you can draw 1 card and then discard. It's not good. Hound Horde's alright. This one's allows you to banish the spell and trap once per turn. It's a quick effect. Hound Horde is usually sent to the graveyard, and then what you can do is you can, like, off your Battle Lord, you'll add Executor, dump Hound Horde, then summon Hound Horde by dumping the Executor, and then you'll usually ritual summon doing that. So that's one of the combos that I do like. The last main deck, like, Vendread monster we're running is actually Scar of the Vendread. We're running 2. Some people run 1, but I definitely think 2 is better. What it does is if this card is sent to the graveyard, whether it be like a discard, or it doesn't even have to be sent as cost, or it can be sent as cost, you can add 1 Vendread spell trap from your deck to your hand, and then it says, if a monster on the field is tributed while this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can banish 1 other zombie monster from your graveyard, special summon this card, and if you do, while it is face up in the monster zone, you cannot special summon monsters except Vendread monsters. Don't make the stupid mistake that I did. I thought you would be able to banish Al-Ghul Mizera to summon Scar and then summon the Al-Ghul Mizera, but no, because Al-Ghul Mizera is not a Vendread, he can't be summoned, so don't make that stupid mistake of banishing Al-Ghul with Scar. Otherwise, you'll lose your Al-Ghul. 2 is good. You can banish the Scar for a Scar, which is pretty cool, and the ad is insanely nice. That actually finishes up all of our monsters. We're going to go off into the Spell and Trap lineup. We're going to be running 3 Vendread Origins. It's the ritual spell of the deck. You have a lot of ritual spells in this deck. This card can be used to ritual summon any Vendread ritual monster from your hand or graveyard, and then you may also tribute monsters from your hand or field, and or banish zombie monsters from your graveyard whose total levels equal or exceed the level of the ritual monster you are ritual summoning. Also, another cool thing is if Vendread Slayer you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead, so it protects. Same as like Mazera, so your board gets really hard to actually be outed because you have Mazera protecting your monsters, you have Vendread Origin protecting your Slayers, which really makes your board sticky. And if they do out your board, you just float off into so much advantage off of all the card effects. So we're running those 3 Vendread Origins. We're running 3 Evolution. Evolution is also another ritual spell in the deck. If you open Evolution plus Slayer, you can pretty much do your full combo. What it will do is you can ritual summon using a monster from your deck. You have to send one Vendread ritual monster from your deck to the graveyard whose total level equals the level of the ritual monster you ritual summon. And then it says, but the only downside is the ritual summon monster is destroyed during the end phase of the next turn. They'll never stick on the field for that long, so it doesn't matter. So what you'll do is you'll summon out your Slayer using Evolution by sending Scar from the deck. And then you'll activate Scar's effect to be able to add like an Origin or something, and then you'll be able to do your plays. Evolution is, I would say, definitely a 3 of. I've seen people running 2, but that's only if you're running a Herald package, which I'm not. I'm running pure zombies. Herald is pretty good, being able to dump a Herald of the Arclight to be able to add Ben 10, and then you can be able to ritual summon using the Ben 10 to add another Herald or another Ben 10. And it kind of goes off like in a Drytron line, but I didn't want to spend like the $15 on the Herald, so I'm running the pure version of this instead. And I'd say the pure version is pretty good, being able to just grind out your opponent. We're running 2 Ravenous Vendread. This is the new ritual spell that came out of Power of the Elements. What it allows you to do is special summon a Vendread monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard in face down defense, and then you're able to ritual summon any Vendread ritual monster from your hand or graveyard by tributing the monster you control, including the monster special summoned by this card, whose total levels equal or exceed the level of the ritual monster. So Origin can exceed, Vendread, Ravenous can exceed, but Vendread cannot exceed the level. So you just have to play and remember that your levels do matter in certain cases. So oftentimes what you'll do is if you'll have a Hound Horde in the grave and you'll have an Executor in hand, and then you might have a Ravenous Vendread in your hand, what you'll do is you'll activate Hound Horde to summon itself by tossing the Executor, and then you'll activate Ravenous Vendread being able to special summon Vendread Revenants and face down to your field, and then you ritual summon these 2 into like a Slayer or a Battle Lord. And that will actually give it the double banish because this is technically on the field even if it is face down. Besides that, we're going to be, that's the main ritual spells that we're running. We're running 2 more Vendread spells. We're running 1 Vendread Charge. Charge is pretty good. It sends a zombie monster from your hand or face up on your field to the graveyard, special summons a Vendread monster from your deck. It doesn't really matter because you can sometimes summon out Revenants, sometimes summon out Hound Horde. Most of the time you're actually going for Scar. So it allows you to have extension. I think 1 is more than enough because it's searchable in the deck. You can actually search it off Scar as well. And then it gives you a quick play. It's quick play so you can use it during your opponent's turn, which is pretty nice. We're also running 1 Vendread Knights to round off our Vendread spell lineup. It allows you to discard a card and add a Vendread monster from your deck to your hand. That can be Revenants, it can be Scar if you want to have tribute material. And then it says when your Vendread monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, banish a Vendread monster from your graveyard and it can attack an opponent's monster again in a row. So it turns your Vendreads into UCTs. That is a very large spell lineup for Vendreads. We're basically running 10 Vendread spells. You can brick on them, which kind of sucks, but overall I'd say that they're quite necessary. And then we're running some really nice consistency cards. We're running 3 Prepper Rites. Adds a level 7 or lower ritual monster from your deck to your hand, and then you can add a ritual spell from your graveyard to your hand. In the grind game, if you draw this is basically game, because you just add another Slayer, you add in your rituals, and you add back the Origin, and you just ritual summon it, and you just get so much advantage off this. Then we're also running 3 Prepper Rites. As I said, you can search Origin, you can also search Vendread Slayer because they list each other, but you can also search the other one that just recently came out. You can search Ravenous Vendreads and the Vendread Scavenger because they list each other in the name. So you can either search those 2 if you have like the Vendread Slayer and the Origin in hand, or you can do the opposite. Nice consistency cards. This is amazing Ash Bait, and if you activate this, it's basically, this is a 2-for-1, which is amazing. This card is definitely the reason why you play the deck. It just gives you so much advantage. But to finish off our main deck, we're actually running one Foolish Burial. That's, I mean, it just makes sense. Every deck you want to run Foolish Burial in. And then we're running one Vendread Reorigin. It's funny because later on in the game, you can actually just play Vendread Reorigin Control, and you can just basically cycle it every single turn with this specific card. A Vendread Slayer or Savior allows you to target a Vendread card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So if they're on basically top deck mode, what you're going to be doing is you're just going to have Savior out, and then every single turn you're just going to add Reorigin back to your hand, then reset it, and then add Reorigin and then set it. And you just keep on tributing their monsters, and oftentimes people just can't out the loop of this. I love the combo, it's really good. But yeah, that's the main deck. We're going to get off into the extra deck now. We're going to be going off into the Synchros. We're going to be playing one Immortal Dragon. The levels kind of don't match sometimes. It really depends because, yes, even though your Unizombie's a 3, you don't really have... You have a 2 on your Streegies. That's the only reason I do play it. What you can do is you can Unizombie, dump Streegies if you have something, and like Mizuki in the grave. Sometimes you can make a Mortal Dragon. It's not often. So that's just kind of like a filler spot to say the least. We're running one Red-Eyed Zombie Necro Dragon. I'm just trying to run as many like synchro levels as I can because the extra deck doesn't really get filled in this. You don't really use it as much because you're trying to focus more on your main deck with all your rituals. So I'm just running a plethora of synchro levels for my Unizombie. He's the only way that you can actually synchro summon in this deck, but you'll see him more often than not. I'm running one Skeletal Dragon Felgrand. He's a good 8. We got Chaos Ruler banned, so he's probably the next best choice. Not to mention, sometimes you may zombie lock yourself with your Glow Bloom, so these are quite necessary. Then we're running one Red-Eyed Zombie Dragon Lord. As I said, sometimes you Glow Bloom lock yourself and you can't make anything else except zombies, so he's a good 10 to make. And then your optimal 10 is your Baronne de Fleur. I mean, this card in and of itself is just busted. That's our synchro lineup. Then we're going to go off into our links. We don't have any XZs, and we don't have any fusions because we're not running Super Poly. So this, literally everything else we run is links. We're going to run one Link-a-Rebo. You can normal summon your Bloom, and then you can link it off for Link-a-Rebo, and then be able to add a Slayer. And then that sometimes can get your combos off. It's not bad. We're running one IP Masquerena. It's a good link, generic link too. It also pairs well with the bosses that I'll show later on. We're running one Vampire Sucker. Sucker is pretty good as well. It's a zombie link too, so if you're zombie locked, you can still make Sucker. And then it gives you some draw power, which is pretty nice. I've never really done the other effect. The only thing is, like, it says if you would tribute a monster for a tribute summon, you can tribute a zombie monster to your opponent controls, even though you do not control them. That's only good if you have Zombie World, of course, and we're not running that, so it doesn't really matter. Then we're running two Vendread Savior. This is probably the most important card in your extra deck. What it does is it requires 2 zombie monsters, and its name becomes Vendread Slayer while on the field, so you get all your plethora of effects that require Vendread Slayer effects, or the name. And what you can do is, you can use each of the following effects once per turn. You can target one Vendread card in your graveyard, add to your hand. So this card is amazing in the grind. Then what you can also do is during damage calc, if this card battles an opponent's monster, quick effect, you can send one zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard. That opponent's monster loses attack equal to the level of the monsters into the graveyard times 200. Usually if you were actually playing like a pure zombie deck, you would use Savior to be able to send like a Baylor during battle phase and be able to trigger your Baylor during the next phase, like when it comes back during their turn. We're not actually doing that. This is mainly just to send Al Ghul Mazera and just be able to get that boost because it's the same level. It's level 8, so you're dropping them by 1600, which is more than enough. Basically, it turns this into a 3200. And then what you can do is protect your monsters by battle or card effects for the rest of the game, which is really good. We're also running one Nightmare Unicorn. Unicorn is just a generic good bounce. We're running one Vampire Fascinator. I can use this sometimes. It says if this card is link summoned, you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon to your field in defense position. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except zombie monsters. And then what it says, you contribute one vampire monster, then target one monster your opponent controls, take control of it until the end phase. Fascinator is actually quite good in being able to try to OTK and clear the board. You can summon back one of their big monsters in defense, and then what you can do is you can either use that for tribute material, or what you can do is then tribute your Fascinator, be able to steal one of their monsters, and just clear their board. To finish it off, these are just like the Link 1s through Link 3s, and these are going to be the boss monsters. We're running one Boral Sword, pairs well with IP Masquerena as well because they just can't destroy by card effects. We're running one Mech Knight Crusader Avermax. I like the Avermax made with IP line. Many decks aren't able to get over that this format, especially because it can't be targeted, and I just love Avermax. I think he's a great boss monster. The only issue is just certain decks do out him. It says, while this Link Summon card is on the field, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. Also, the monsters cannot target monsters for attacks except this one. And then once per battle during damage calc, if this card battles a special summon monster, quick effect, you can make this card gain attack equal to the opponent's monster's attack during that damage calc only. Then if this Link Summon card you control is sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card, you can shuffle one card on the field into the deck. Avermax is a really good card. It has good potential in being able to just lock out the board because they can't target any of your other monsters for attacks, and they just can't target us with card effects. Really good. And the last card that we're running is Yugioh. Good zombie Link 4. If you're zombie luck, you definitely make that. But that's the whole deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed this Halloween-themed deck profile. I have played this deck quite a bit. It requires a very good knowledge of the game and being able to predict what your opponent can do and also predict the future lines that they'll be able to go into. If you screw up your rituals once, then you're kind of in a bad situation, because if you lock yourself into Vendreads or you lock yourself into zombies and you have to do combos that don't require it, then that's the only bad part about this deck. But if you are a experienced player who wants to play a nice ritual archetype and also do like zombies, I definitely suggest this. I hope you guys enjoy this deck profile, and I'll see you in the next one.